I returned home from school to find the house empty. No furniture, no message, just a dead Wi-Fi connection and a locked front door. I walked over to my aunt's house, and when she opened the door, she said, "They left this morning. Didn't they inform you?" I called my mom, and while she picked up the first time, it was simpler that way. Then she blocked my number. For a month, I slept in a friend's garage, never seeing that street or my family again. 11 years later, I made a choice they didn't expect when they located me through a file. I just laughed. Since then, I've received messages like, "Please explain what this means. Dad is upset every day." He keeps saying, "We shouldn't have abandoned him. We weren't thinking clearly. Please trust us." So, yeah, I'm not sure how to begin, but maybe someone will understand. I always thought events like this only happened to those strange headlines you see on Facebook, like, "My family left me, now I'm rich." Except I'm not wealthy. And I'm not some protagonist. I just want to clarify this isn't a pity party. I'm honestly still angry and not gonna lie, a bit impressed by the audacity of my family's actions. So, here we go. It was a Tuesday, not even an unusual day, just Tuesday after school. I remember feeling annoyed about a group chat because someone commented on my shoes. They were actually fake, but who cares? They were clean. I was texting back all the way home. I arrived at the house, which was just a typical suburban place, nothing out of the ordinary, but I noticed the grass looked unusually flattened and there were tire tracks in the driveway, different from the usual spots. I thought it was just Dad moving his car again. He used to do that to irritate the neighbors. I unlocked the front gate, stepped onto the porch, and saw the mailbox was empty. Mom never empties it. I thought maybe they were home early, or it was a surprise. I tried my key in the front door, but it wouldn't turn. It was as if someone had changed the lock. I tried again, wiggling it a bit, but I got irritated because I needed to pee, and my phone was at 14%, which was typical. I knocked on the door a few times. Nothing. The curtains were drawn, which was suspicious since Mom usually kept them half open for the cat to look outside. Rip to that cat? I don't know what happened to her. Anyway, I walked around to the side and tried the garage door, which was unlocked. But when I went in, there was literally nothing. The shelves were gone, even the spot where we stored old tennis rackets. And it felt eerily empty. No detergent smell, no boxes, just vacant space. I stood there trying to figure out if it was a prank or if we'd been robbed. But even the old stuff was missing. The broken bike, the cracked bucket, even the disgusting mat Dad promised to throw out. I tried the laundry door, but that was locked too, without the old scratch marks from where the dog used to paw at it. It was just new. I started calling Mom, but she didn't pick up. I tried Dad, and it went straight to voicemail. I was getting angrier than worried, honestly, because this felt like some extreme passive-aggressive act if they were upset about last night, which was another argument about money and school. I yelled back, whatever, not my finest moment, but I didn't flip a table or anything. They've done worse. I wasn't even home that late. I checked the Wi-Fi. It was dead, not just a bad connection, but the whole network was gone. I couldn't hop online to see if maybe I had a text or if someone posted anything. I tried my sister's number. She's younger and probably couldn't help, and it went to voicemail too. At this point, I was genuinely starting to wonder if something had happened, like a fire or something, but the neighbor was out watering his plants and just gave me the usual nod. I asked him if he saw my parents. He shrugged and said he saw a moving truck that morning and thought it was odd I wasn't helping. I told him I didn't know, and he went back to his hose while I stood there with my backpack and dying. Phone. I decided to walk to my aunt's place, which was about 15 minutes if I cut through the field by the rec center. I knocked when I got there, and she opened the door, looking at me like I was a stray dog, which was funny because she always posts about how family is everything. I asked her if she knew where my parents were, and she just sighed and said, "They moved this morning. Didn't they tell you?" I replied, "No, obviously not." She just stood there, blocking the door with her arm, not even inviting me in or offering food. She said something about it not being her place to get involved. Maybe I should call my mom. She'd explain. But she seemed nervous, glancing back inside as if someone was watching. I sat down on her porch since I literally had nowhere else to go, and after a while, she brought me a bottle of water but wouldn't let me in the house. My cousin came out, saw me, said hi, and went back inside. I tried calling Mom again, and this time she actually picked up, saying it was easier this way. Her voice flat, then hung up. I called back, but she had already blocked me. I tried texting, but nothing went through. I tried Dad, same result. Now it's almost dark, and I'm still on that porch when my aunt finally comes out and says, "I can't keep you here." She's sorry, but it's not her problem. I asked her where they went, and she just said, "I think somewhere north. I don't know." That was it. No offer for a ride, no cash, nothing. She shut the door, not slamming, but definitely not gently either. I ended up walking to Julio's place, which was kind of far, but I had no other choices. Julio's mom answered the door, looking annoyed, but let me in when she saw my face. I told them I needed a place to stay just for a night, swearing I'd figure it out. Julio's dad was less friendly, but he didn't say no. They let me sleep in their garage, which was filled with boxes and smelled like old shoes, but I didn't mind. At least I wasn't outside. The next morning, I checked my phone. Still nothing from my family. I tried going to school, but I couldn't concentrate. Everyone was asking where I was living, and I just said with a friend because I didn't want to involve the counselors. If you've ever been the charity case at school, you know it's not a good feeling. I kept checking social media, but there was nothing about me, nothing about moving, just some generic happy family pictures from a week ago. My sister didn't reply to my DMs, but she was still posting stories of her new room, not my old house. So yeah, they really just left. I stayed in Julio's garage for almost a month. His parents started getting uneasy about it after week 2. I offered to help with chores, take out the trash, whatever. They weren't mean, just awkward. I started doing odd jobs for neighbors, mowing lawns, stuff like that, just to buy snacks and keep my phone charged. School was whatever. I just did the minimum. I stopped trying to call my family after the first week. It was clear they weren't going to answer. They moved on. Literally. I heard from a friend of a friend that my parents were starting fresh, whatever that meant. I guess they always thought I was too much. Too angry, too loud, too hard to manage. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I wasn't setting the house on fire either. I think they just wanted an easier life, and I was the issue they always claimed I was. They said I was hurting the family atmosphere after arguments, that I was setting a bad example for my sister, like I was just existing. I argued when they were unfair. I didn't just roll over. Maybe that's why I never saw that street or them again. Not even once. I kept hoping someone would show up, an apology, an explanation, but nothing. I stopped expecting it after 2 months. So yeah, that's how it went. If you're expecting a big "and then I forgave them" moment, nah, that's not this story. If anything, it's just the beginning. I'm not out here begging for sympathy. I just wanted it on record that I didn't give in. I didn't crawl back. And if anyone thinks I just accepted it, nah, I was just waiting. The next part is where it gets interesting. I promise. Update 1. So, yeah, like I said last time, I stayed in Julio's garage for a month. If you've ever slept on gym mats stacked on cardboard boxes, congrats, you know the vibe. It was cold and smelled like feet, but at least I wasn't on the street. Julio was solid, but his parents were clearly not thrilled, especially his dad. Every morning he'd grumble about electricity bills and ask how long I was visiting. I started leaving before sunrise and coming back after dark to avoid them, but it didn't help much. The first week, I thought maybe my family would realize what they did was crazy and come back, or at least send someone to pick me up. I kept checking my phone, but nothing. I messaged Mom and Dad, got nothing except that one text from Mom saying it was easier this way, which still makes me angry. I even tried my sister Natalie. She was about 12, so there was no way she could help, but I thought maybe she'd at least tell me what was going on. She left me on read, then blocked me. When I checked her social media, she'd already posted pictures of her new room and a dog I'd never seen. Just the usual, new place, new me kind of stuff. It felt like I never existed. School was a whole other mess. I started showing up less because I didn't have clean clothes half the time, and I was always tired. The guidance counselor cornered me, asking if everything was okay at home. I said, "Yeah, just moving," and he gave me that look like he didn't buy it. but didn't want to get involved. Teachers stopped calling on me after week 2. I guess they figured I was just another lost cause. Julio tried to keep me in the loop, but it was obvious his parents were over it. His mom started making passive comments about kids who don't respect their elders and take advantage of others' kindness. I started eating less just to avoid awkwardness and bought instant noodles with the cash I earned mowing lawns. The worst part was weekends. Everyone else had somewhere to be. I'd walk around the mall with nothing to buy just so I wouldn't be in the way. I started hanging out at this park with broken swings, scrolling on my phone until the battery died. One time, I saw my dad's Facebook pop up. He wasn't smart enough to block me yet. There were these pictures of a house I'd never seen before, with the caption, "Fresh start blessed." My mom was there, smiling, holding Natalie and some guy I didn't recognize. I stared at it for like an hour, zooming in on the background, trying to see if there was anything of mine, but it was all new. New couch, new rug, new everything, even the dog. After that, I stopped checking. I blocked them instead. I figured, if they could move on, so could I. Except it wasn't that easy, because everywhere I went, someone would ask where I was living now, or if my parents were coming to the next game or whatever. I started saying I was with an aunt just to stop people from asking. Some believed me, some didn't. One guy asked if I was homeless, and I almost swung at him, but Julio stepped in and told him to shut up. Eventually, Julio's dad sat me down and said I had to go. He tried to make it sound like he was helping me, saying it would be better for everyone if I sorted things out with my family. I told him that wasn't happening, but he just shrugged and said, "Life's not fair." I packed my stuff, which was just my backpack and a garbage bag of clothes, and left without saying goodbye to Julio. I just texted him, "Sorry." Later, he didn't answer for 2 days, then just sent NP bro. We haven't really talked since. I get it, honestly. People get tired of your baggage. I spent a couple of nights at the park, then started crashing on couches with some other kids I knew from school. Not friends, just people who didn't mind if I slept on the floor. It was always temporary, always awkward. I learned to keep quiet and not ask for anything. I got used to people slamming doors in my face or getting angry if I used their charger without asking. I started keeping my stuff in a locker at the rec center just so it wouldn't get stolen. I don't know if anyone reading this has ever tried to get help in a situation like that, but it's not like in the movies. People say to call social services or talk to an adult, but adults don't want to deal with it, and I wasn't about to go to some group home. I figured if my own family didn't want me, why would anyone else? Plus, I wasn't going to beg. I never gave them that satisfaction. The anger kept building. I remember one night I was at this kid Brad's house sleeping on a beanbag, and I heard his mom ask him why I was still there. He said, "He's got nowhere else to go, Mom, just for a few days." She replied, "That's not our problem, Brad." I got up, grabbed my bag, and left before they woke up. Just kept walking. I was tired of being everyone's problem. The thing is, my parents always said I was the one making things difficult, that I was too loud, too stubborn, too much attitude. They'd tell me I was hurting the family atmosphere every time I stood up to them about something, like when I said it wasn't fair that Natalie got new shoes every month while I wore hand-me-downs, or when I called out my dad for yelling at Mom. They didn't want to deal with me, so they just didn't. I started thinking if I was such a problem, maybe I should be a problem. Not for the people helping me, but for the ones who abandoned me. I began keeping notes, literally on my phone, every time I remembered something they did that messed me up. Every time they used my name on bills to get cheaper utilities, or when they signed up for things in my name because I was a minor. So, it didn't matter. I remembered my dad yelling at me to give him my social security number for tax stuff when I was about 13. I didn't even know why, but I just did it. I kept all that filed away. I started Googling what you could do if someone used your info like that. Most of the answers were useless or made it sound impossible unless you had money or parents who cared, LOL. I started thinking about how to escape all that and how to ensure they couldn't just forget I existed. I didn't want to just move on. I wanted them to feel it. But before I could do anything, I had to survive. That meant making enough to eat, staying out of trouble, and keeping a low profile. I learned to hustle. I'd do whatever paid. Yard work, running errands, cleaning up after parties, even selling random stuff I found. Old electronics, books, whatever. I kept my phone running on cheap prepaid cards. Sometimes I'd go 3 days without talking to anyone. Nobody asked where I was, and I stopped caring. I saw my mom once at the grocery store months later. She was with Natalie and some guy, probably her new boyfriend, looking happy, laughing about a sale on frozen pizza. I just watched them from the other aisle. She saw me, made eye contact, then turned away without flinching. I walked out, didn't even try to talk to her. That's when I knew for sure there was no fixing it. They were done with me, and honestly, I was done with them. But I wasn't going to let it go. I started planning, not just for survival, but for payback. I wasn't going to go full psycho or anything, but I wanted them to feel what it was like to be abandoned, to have something ripped out from under you without warning, without support. And yeah, people will say I needed therapy or whatever, like, yeah, maybe, but I needed a plan more. I wasn't about to let them win. I didn't want to be some story my family tells at parties about their troubled son. I wanted to be the reason they can't sleep at night. I was just getting started. Update 2. So yeah, last time I left off about how I started keeping notes and all that after they left me essentially on the sidewalk. I guess I always figured at some point I'd just get numb to it or move on, but the thing about being abandoned by your own family is it lingers. I didn't get over it. I just got smarter, to be honest. I got meaner. Anyway, after bouncing from couch to couch for what felt like forever, I finally got my own place. Not a real apartment, just a room in a rundown house with 2 other guys who didn't ask questions, which was the only way I could afford it. I was still under 18, so I had to get creative with stuff. Borrowed IDs, paid everything in cash, did whatever. It wasn't glamorous, but at least nobody could kick me out without a fight. I kept hustling, picked up odd jobs, saved every extra cent. Some days I skipped meals just so I didn't have to explain where my money went. The weird part was, even after all that, I still got mail from my parents, stuff with my name on it too. At first, it was junk, then it got weirder. Random bills, strange credit card offers, even a letter from some utility company about an unpaid balance. I didn't think much of it at first, I just tossed it. But then I started getting calls from numbers I didn't recognize, leaving voicemails about late bills and collections. Once, a debt collector called and said my co-signer needed to pay up. I almost laughed. I was 17 and technically had $0 to my name. So I started digging, pulled my credit report. It's a nightmare if you don't have an address or a steady phone number, but I figured it out. Turns out there were, like 3 accounts opened in my name, all from my old address. These weren't huge debts, but they were enough to ruin my credit before I even had one. I remembered my dad always asking for my information, saying it was just for paperwork. I guess I should have known. But when you're a kid, you just do what people tell you. I tried calling the companies, but they didn't care. They said I needed proof I didn't sign for the accounts. I explained my situation, and one lady just said I needed to get my legal guardian to call. I hung up. Nobody was going to fix this for me. I got angry. Not even sad anymore, just straight rage. You can cut someone off, fine, but to use their name to set up your new life, that's next level. I started tracking down where my parents actually moved, not to reconnect, but to see what they were up to. Information leaked out. My aunt posted a family selfie at a new house, all happy, and accidentally tagged the location. I looked up the address, and yeah, it was nicer than anything we ever had. New paint, fancy plants, even one of those blessed family signs on the porch. I guess that's what you get when you ditch your kid and don't have to pay for them anymore. I didn't want to just show up, not my style, and honestly, I didn't want to see their faces. But I wanted them to know I was still there, that they didn't just erase me. So, here's where I started making my own move. I went to every place that had opened accounts in my name and started contesting them. I sent letters, called, filled out forms, even went in person once and argued with some guy behind the desk until he threatened to call security. I kept every receipt, every email, every letter. It took months, but I started getting some progress. A couple of places dropped the debts, a couple just stopped calling. But the big stuff, like the main utility company, refused to budge, so I flipped it. I told them outright I never lived at the new address and had proof I'd been elsewhere. School records, even a dumb bus pass from the city. They said fine, but now the balance would go back to the original signers, aka my parents. I said, do it. They said it might take a while, but I made sure every single bill with my name on it got sent straight back to Brenda and Richard. I even called one place and said, look, if you send another letter to my name at this address, I'll file a complaint." They stopped. About a year later, I heard from a cousin that my parents were fighting all the time about money. Something about unexpected bills and their credit score dropping. I guess it's not easy to get a new mortgage when your last one is tangled up in collections. I heard my dad ranting to my aunt. She had me on speaker by accident, LOL, about how the boy's making trouble again, just like always. I nearly threw my phone across the room. Then I started getting weird messages from old family friends. Stuff like, "Your mom says you're angry, but you should let it go." Or, "Family is family, you can't just shut the door forever." I ignored them. I was done playing nice. I never asked to be the villain, but if they wanted to paint me that way, fine. I got a text from my sister Natalie after years of silence. It was just, "Why are you making things harder?" I stared at it for a while. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? Sorry your parents are dealing with the consequences of their actions? Nah, she was old enough to know better now. If she wanted to talk, she could call me like a real person, not just when she wanted something. The best part was, I started to realize they'd always been like this. My parents didn't leave me because I was some monster. They left because it was easier to start over without the hassle of a kid who fought back. I made things complicated because I didn't just do whatever they said. I called them out for lying, for playing favorites, for taking shortcuts. They hated that. They wanted a family they could control, not one that challenged them. So yeah, if you don't want to be remembered, don't make an enemy. I wasn't going to let them just walk away unscathed. Every time a bill bounced, every time their phone got shut off, every time they had to pay a deposit due to credit issues, that was me. I didn't need to see it to know. I heard from enough. People that they were stressed, fighting, blaming each other. My aunt even tried to guilt me, saying I was breaking the family apart. I told her she could block my number too. I know some of you are going to say this is petty or whatever, but nah, this is just what happens when you treat your own kid like a problem to be solved. I made sure every single thing they tried to pin on me came right back to them. I didn't do anything illegal, just ensured the truth hit where it hurt. I didn't just walk away. I made sure they remembered who they left behind. And I wasn't even close to being done yet. Next part, you'll see what happens when you try to erase someone, and they write themselves back in boldly. Final update. So if you've read this far, you probably think I'm just some guy with a vendetta and too much time on my hands, which honestly is fair enough. But if you've ever been tossed aside like trash by your own family, you'd get it. You'd understand why I didn't just want to move on. I wanted them to feel it every single day until they remembered who they really left behind. I guess the first strange sign was when I received this letter marked urgent legal notice, and the sender was some law office I'd never heard of. It looked official, not the usual junk mail. I almost tossed it, but I opened it out of habit. Apparently, now that I was over 25 and had gone full ghost mode for a decade, my parents were trying to track me down because of some property issue. Not like inheritance or anything, LOL. Yeah, right? Just some paperwork where they needed my signature to refinance their house. You'd think they would have learned by now, but nah, they needed me on paper, so suddenly I mattered again. The letter said they'd tried my last known. Addresses, tried calling, nope, tried email. But I never gave them my new one. They even reached out to a couple of extended family members. My cousin Natalie texted me, acting like nothing happened, asking if I'd seen the letter from Mom and Dad. I didn't reply. None of my business, none of my responsibility. I read the whole thing twice, trying to figure out if it was some scam or if they really needed me this badly. Turns out, because of all the stuff they'd put in my name back when I was a minor, utilities, joint accounts, whatever, there was no way for them to clean up their finances unless I signed off, since I'd spent years untangling my name from their mess. Now every time they tried to refinance, the banks flagged it. I wasn't even mad. I just started laughing. Actual laughing. It was so obvious that after all this time, the only reason they wanted to find me was so I could fix their problems. Then the messages started. First from some random number, then from my aunt, finally from my mom. She sent like 10 texts in a row, all long paragraphs basically saying they needed my help just for this one thing, promising it would make things right. I didn't even read half of them. Then my dad texted, which he literally never did, saying he was sorry for everything and that he just wanted to talk. The next day, my cousin DM'd me screenshots of their group chat. My mom was freaking out. My dad apparently broke down, saying he shouldn't have left me. My aunt dropped lines like, "Please just tell us what this means." It felt like a soap opera, except I was the main villain in their story, and none of it felt bad. It felt kind of good. I know some people will say I should have just signed and moved on, but nah. I remembered every slammed door, every night I spent in someone else's garage, every time a bill collector called me at 16 because my parents didn't want to deal with the consequences. I remembered my aunt literally pushing me off her porch so her neighbors wouldn't see. I remembered being the problem, not the person. You don't come back from that with an apology text. So instead of ghosting, I filed my own paperwork. Not just a no contact thing, but a full legal separation, officially cutting every possible tie. I made sure every form stated I wanted nothing to do with any of their accounts, debts, or property, and that if they tried to use my name again, it would be flagged for fraud. I ensured that any bank, any company, any court that tried to involve me would see the record and block it. It cost some money and took a bunch of phone calls, but I did it. I even CC'd their lawyer so they'd see it was real. The fallout was wild. My aunt called furious, saying I was ruining the family's future. My mom sent another long text about forgiveness, saying we weren't thinking clearly. Please believe us. My dad tried to call. I let it ring out. Natalie messaged me on Instagram saying, "Dad was crying every day, asking if I was happy now." I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to gloat, but because there was nothing left to say. I already gave them my answer. Relatives started taking sides. Some blamed me, saying I was being cruel. Others blamed my parents, but honestly, most just wanted the drama to end. One uncle even showed up at my door, trying to push past me, saying I owed it to the family to help. I pushed him back and shut the door. I kept the texts, kept the emails, kept the receipts, just in case. Through all of this, I was waiting to see if they'd actually get it. If they'd realize you can't just erase someone and expect them to come back when it's convenient. But I don't think they ever will. They're not villains. They're just selfish. They wanted a family they could control, not one that called them out when things got tough. They cut their losses and ran just like always. So when people ask, why I didn't just move on, this is why. You don't get to abandon someone, then need them, then act surprised when they won't save you. I didn't make this mess, but I sure as hell wasn't going to clean it up for them. And yeah, I laughed when that letter came. I laugh every time someone sends me a screenshot of my dad crying about the boy. I laugh because, for once, they finally got left holding the bill. That's it. I'm not waiting for closure. I'm not looking for some grand speech or a perfect reconciliation. I got what I wanted, my name back, my freedom, and the knowledge that they can't use me for anything ever again. If they want to cry about it, let them. And to anyone who thinks I went too far, nah. If anything, I went exactly as far as I needed to.